The stars had always been quiet for humanity. For 300 years, humans had traveled through space, built colonies on distant worlds, and mapped the dark corners of the galaxy. They had found life, bacteria on frozen moons, strange plants on toxic planets, creatures that swam through gas clouds. But they had never found anyone who could talk back. The universe, it seemed, was empty of friends. Admiral stood on the bridge of watching the endless black through the main window. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples and tired eyes that had seen too many years of patrol duty. His ship was old but strong, built to survive the worst the void could throw at it. Behind him, the bridge crew worked in comfortable silence, checking systems and monitoring sensors. "Sir," said Ensign from her station. She was young, barely 25, with quick hands and sharp ears. Her job was to listen to the empty space, to catch any signal that might matter. For 3 years she had heard nothing but static and the echo of human broadcasts bouncing off distant objects. Tonight was different. "I'm picking up something strange," she said. Her voice was calm, but noticed how she leaned forward, pressing her headphones against her ears. "It's not one of ours." The bridge went quiet. Commander, second in command, walked over to station. Was a practical woman, not given to excitement or false hope. She had served with for 15 years, and he trusted her judgment more than his own. "Show me," said. His fingers moved across her console. The main screen flickered, and then they all heard it, a sound that was clearly a voice speaking words that no human had ever spoken. The language was alien, flowing, and musical, but underneath the strange syllables was something universal. Fear, desperation, a plea. "It's repeating," said. "The same message, over and over. I'm counting 17 different languages in the loop. Someone wants to be understood very badly." Lieutenant, the tactical officer, pulled up a star map. He was a serious man who rarely smiled, but he was the best at reading the darkness between stars. "Signal origin is in the expanse, about 6 hours at full speed." Knew the expanse by reputation. It was a lawless region, far from any human colony, where strange things happened and ships sometimes vanished. The official policy was to avoid it entirely. "Can you translate any of it?" asked. Worked for several minutes, her computer comparing the alien words against every linguistic pattern in its database. Finally, she looked up with wide eyes. "It's an SOS, sir, a distress call. They're saying they're under attack. They're asking anyone who can hear them to please help. They're begging." The bridge was silent, looked at each of his officers in turn. He saw confusion, curiosity, and something else, something that looked like hope mixed with fear. "We don't know who they are," said quietly. "We don't know what's attacking them. We have no treaties, no obligations, no backup within 10 light years." "I know," said. "It could be a trap." "It could be." Met his eyes, "But you want to go anyway." Thought about all the years of silence, all the empty planets and dead radio channels. Humanity had been alone for so long, calling out into the dark and hearing nothing back. Now, finally, someone was calling to them. "Someone is asking for help," he said. "I don't know who they are or what they look like. I don't know if they'll thank us or shoot us when we arrive. But I know what it feels like to be alone and afraid, and I know what it means when nobody comes." He turned to the helm officer. "Set course for the signal origin. All ships, formation alert." The fleet responded. 4 other ships fell into position around the destroyers and the cruiser and the support vessel. They were not a large force, but they were what had. Captain Park commanded her voice came through the calm and professional. "Admiral, do we have any idea what we're flying into?" "No," admitted, "but we're going anyway." There was a pause, then his voice came back and could hear the smile in it. "Understood, sir, is ready." As the fleet accelerated toward the unknown, continued to monitor the signal. It never stopped, the same desperate message. repeating endlessly, growing stronger as they drew closer. "Sir," she said after an hour, "I've identified the ship type from the signal encoding. It's called the Dream. According to some old data fragments I found, it's a passenger liner, civilian vessel, capacity of about 2,000. 2,000 civilians," said quietly, "under attack." Nodded, his decision felt more right with every passing minute. As they entered the expanse, the sensors began picking up debris, pieces of destroyed ships, cargo containers, personal belongings frozen in the vacuum. This was a hunting ground, realized. Someone used this region to prey on travelers. "Contact," announced. "I'm reading 4 vessels ahead. 3 are large, armed, running aggressive formations. The 4th is smaller, civilian profile, minimal power output. That must be our distressed ship." "The hunters and the hunted," said. "What do we know about the attacking ships?" asked. Worked his console. "Nothing in our database, but their weapons signatures suggest heavy armament. They're built for one thing, killing." Opened a channel to all ships. "This is Admiral. We are about to make first contact with alien life. We do not know their customs, their languages, or their intentions. What we do know is that someone is hurting innocent people, and we have the power to stop it." He paused, looking at the tactical display where 3 Predator ships circled their helpless prey. "We came from a world that tried to kill us every day. Gravity crushed our bones, weather destroyed our homes, animals hunted us in the dark, and we survived. We survived because we learned to protect each other, to fight for each other, to never leave anyone behind." His voice hardened. "Today, we find out if those lessons apply to more than just humans. All ships, prepare for combat. We're going to answer that call." The fleet surged forward into the unknown, carrying humanity's answer to the first cry for help they had ever received from the stars. Whatever waited for them, they would face it together. The Dream was dying. Its hull was torn open in 3 places, leaking air and light into the cold vacuum. Emergency lights flickered across its surface like the fatting heartbeat of a wounded animal. Around it, 3 warships circled slowly, their weapons trained on the crippled vessel, waiting. Inside the Dream, 2,000 huddled in the darkness. They were small creatures, barely reaching a human's waist, with pale skin that glowed softly with bioluminescent patterns. Their large eyes, designed for the dim light of their, now reflected only terror. They had fled their conquered planet 3 months ago, searching for any world that would accept them. Instead, they had found They were slavers. They had operated in this region for centuries, capturing weaker species and selling them to the highest bidder. To them, they were not people, they were cargo, valuable for their gentle nature and their willingness to work without complaint. Overseer stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the crippled liner with satisfaction. He was a massive creature, covered in thick scales, with 4 arms and a mouth full of sharp teeth. His species had evolved as apex predators on a world of endless war, and they had carried that violence with them into the stars. "Begin boarding procedures," he ordered. "Sort them by age and health. The young ones sell for more." His crew moved to obey. Then the sensors screamed. 5 ships dropped out of hyperspace directly behind the formation. They were unlike anything in the galactic database. Angular, aggressive designs covered in heavy armor, bristling with weapons that glowed with barely contained power. "Unknown vessels," the sensor officer reported, his voice shaking. "No species match, no faction identification." Turned to face the new arrivals with a sneer. "Hail them. Find out who dares to interrupt our harvest." The communication channel opened. A human face appeared on the screen, Captain Park of the... She looked at the commander with calm, cold eyes. "This is Captain Park of the United Earth Defense Fleet," she said. "You will release the civilian vessel immediately." Laughed, the sound was harsh and ugly. "Earth, I have never heard of this place. You are in territory, little creature. Leave now or we will add your ships to our collection." Did not blink. I said release them. I will not ask again. You threaten us, leaned forward, amused. We are the collective. We have conquered 100 worlds. We have broken species that your primitive mind cannot imagine. What are you? From the Admiral's voice joined the channel. We are humans. We come from a world your kind would call a death planet. Our gravity would crush your bones. Our atmosphere would burn your lungs. Our wildlife would hunt you for sport. He paused. We survived all of that. You will not survive us. Some amusement faded. He studied the human ships more carefully now, noticing how they moved with perfect coordination, how their weapons tracked his vessels with mechanical precision. For the first time in many years, he felt something close to doubt. Then he crushed it. He had not built his empire by showing weakness. Destroy them, he commanded. The ships opened fire. Plasma bolts and missile swarms streaked toward the human fleet. It should have been a slaughter, 3 warships against 5 unknown vessels. It was not. The human ships scattered with impossible speed, their engines pushing them through maneuvers that should have torn them apart. Lieutenant's targeting solutions were perfect, his weapons finding every gap in the armor. The Dove straight at the lead enemy ship, its guns blazing, ripping through shields that had never been tested by such firepower. The commander watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Their shields are failing. They've never fought anything like us. They've never needed to, replied. They prey on the weak. They've forgotten what it means to face something stronger. The first ship exploded within 10 minutes. The second tried to retreat and was cut apart by the third, flagship, was disabled and boarded. Sergeant Major Lee led the Marine assault. His team moved through the alien ship like ghosts, their armor protecting them from the toxic atmosphere, their weapons cutting down any resistance. They fought with savage desperation, but they were not prepared for human soldiers, beings who could see in darkness, who could function in twice their normal gravity, who had evolved as endurance hunters on a world that killed the weak. Found in the command center, surrounded by his last guards, the overseer was bleeding from wounds to all 4 arms, but he still stood tall, still defiant. What are you? Demanded. Removed his helmet. His face was weathered by years of combat, but his eyes held no hatred, only tired determination. We are humans, he said, and you are under arrest for slavery, piracy, and crimes against sentient beings. When lunged at him, put him down with a single blow. On the Dream, Dr. Shin led the medical teams aboard. They were terrified at first, cowering away from the strange giants who had appeared among them, but knelt down to their level, moving slowly, speaking softly, her hands gentle as she treated their wounds. One child, separated from her parents in the chaos, clung to his leg and would not let go. The doctor simply picked her up and carried her to safety, walking through compartments filled with toxic air without hesitation. Images of this moment would later spread across the galaxy, the human woman cradling the glowing alien child, protecting her from a universe that had shown her only cruelty. When the battle was over and the survivors were rescued, the captain asked to speak with Admiral. Through the translation software, his words came halting and uncertain. We sent our call to the void, he said. We expected nothing. We had given up hope. Then you came, beings we have never met from a world we have never heard of. Why? Considered the question. He looked at the captain, at the hundreds of refugees being tended by his crew, at the wreckage of the ships floating in the darkness. On our world, he said finally, we have a saying. When someone calls for help, you answer. It doesn't matter who they are or where they come from. It doesn't matter if they can pay you back or if anyone will know what you did. He smiled, and it was a tired smile but genuine. You called, we heard. That's all that matters. The captain bowed his head, his bioluminescence flickering with patterns that the humans would later learn meant deep gratitude. We will not forget this, he said. Our people will never forget. And they never did. News traveled fast in the galaxy. Faster than light, faster than ships, faster than anyone could control. Within days of the rescue, every species with a communication network knew what had happened in the expanse. A new species had appeared, beings from a death world, warriors who had crushed the Inminites, then gently carried wounded children to safety. The video spread everywhere. Dr. Shin walking through poison air without protection, the glowing child in her arms. Human soldiers standing guard over rescued civilians. Admiral speaking his simple words, "You called. We heard." On 1,000 worlds, people watched and wondered. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. The Council was an ancient institution, a gathering of the most powerful species in the known galaxy. They made laws, settled disputes, and maintained the careful balance that kept civilizations from destroying each other. They had never heard of Earth. "This is unacceptable," said Counselor of the Dominion. He was a tall, thin creature with metallic skin and cold eyes. His species had ruled their sector for 10,000 years through careful diplomacy and quiet threats. An unknown species cannot simply appear and destroy a fleet. The balance of power must be maintained. "There were slavers," replied Elder of the. He was old, his glow fading with age, but his voice was steady. "They preyed upon my people. These humans asked for nothing in return for saving us. They simply helped because they could." "That makes them even more dangerous," argued. "Species do not act without motivation. What do they want? What are they planning? We must contain them before they destabilize everything." The debate continued for hours. Some counselors wanted to send a fleet to find Earth and establish diplomatic relations, or demand submission. Others counseled patience, wanting to learn more before taking action. A few, argued that the humans should be welcomed as potential allies. In the end, they did nothing. The council was too divided, too afraid, too uncertain. They decided to wait and watch. But the galaxy did not wait. On the mining colony of raiders attacked without warning. They came for the precious metals that the workers pulled from the asteroid fields, and for the workers themselves, who could be sold on the slave markets. The colony's distress beacon went out automatically, broadcasting to anyone who might be listening. For the first time in history, the beacon included a specific request. "If any can hear this, please help." They received the signal 3 days later. Captain Minyu did not hesitate. His ship arrived to find the raiders already fleeing. They had heard the stories. They knew what humans did to those who preyed on the helpless. Minyu let them go. His mission was to protect, not to hunt. He stayed for 2 weeks, helping repair the damage, treating the wounded, making sure the raiders would not return. When he left, the colony painted a mural on their largest building, a human hand reaching down from the stars. More calls came. A research station caught in a stellar storm, its shields failing, its crew counting their final hours. They arrived and evacuated everyone, human engineers working alongside scientists to save their irreplaceable research data. A ship stranded with dying life support, a single family drifting in the dark. Ensign tracked their faint signal for days, refusing to give up, until a patrol boat found them with hours to spare. An orbital habitat attacked by extremists, hostages held at gunpoint. Sergeant Major Lee led another boarding action, his Marines moving with such precision that not a single hostage was harmed. Each rescue added to the legend. Each story spread further than the last. On's console lit up constantly with new signals. Some were genuine emergencies. Others were tests, attempts to see if humans would really respond. A few were traps, set by those who wanted to capture for study or revenge. The traps failed. Humans, it turned out, were very good at recognizing ambushes. They had spent thousands of years hunting and being hunted on their terrible world. Deception did not fool them for long. "Sir," said one evening, her voice tired but excited, "I've the signals from the past month. Over 200 separate requests for assistance. Most of them are asking specifically for us, not for the Council, not for their own governments. For the Commander studied the star map. Lights blinked across dozens of sectors, each one representing someone in need. "We can't answer them all," she said. "We don't have enough ships." "I know," Admiral replied. He stood before the map watching the lights multiply. "But Earth is building more. Every shipyard is running at full capacity. Volunteers are flooding the recruitment centers." "Why?" asked. "We're stretching ourselves thin for species we've never met. Some of them might turn on us the moment it becomes convenient. We're making enemies of the powerful by protecting the weak." Was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "Do you remember what it was like before we left Earth? The wars, the famines, the times when humanity nearly destroyed itself?" Nodded. Every human knew that history. "We survived because, in the end, enough people chose to help each other instead of hurt each other. We built something better not because we were perfect, but because we kept trying." He gestured at the star map. "This is the same thing, just bigger. We can show the galaxy that strength doesn't have to mean cruelty. That power can be used to protect instead of dominate." "And if they don't learn?" asked. "If they keep treating each other like prey?" "Then we keep answering calls," said simply. "We keep showing up. We keep proving that another way is possible. Maybe it takes a year. Maybe it takes a century, but seeds grow eventually." His console chimed again. Another signal, another cry for help. "Unidentified raiders attacking a convoy in the sector," she reported. "Civilian ships, medical supplies for a plague colony." Did not hesitate. "Contact Captain Park. Thee is closest. Tell her to render assistance." "Yes, sir." As orders went out and ships moved to respond, watched her admiral with something like wonder. She had served with him for 15 years, but she was only now beginning to understand what drove him. "You really believe we can change things?" she said. Smiled. "I believe we have to try, and I believe that when people see kindness enough times, they start to believe in it too." Across the void, the signals kept coming, and they kept answering. Warlord had ruled the collective for 60 years. He had crushed rebellions, conquered systems, and built an empire on the broken backs of weaker species. No one had ever him and lived. No one had ever made him afraid. Now, for the first time in his long life, he felt something cold crawling through his heart. The humans had destroyed his brother. They had freed the cargo. They had made the look weak in front of the entire galaxy. Every day, more species grew bold, refusing to pay tribute, fighting back against raiders. The empire was crumbling, and it was all because of these. "Find their world," commanded his intelligence officers. "Find Earth. I will burn it myself." They searched for months. They interrogated traders, bribed informants, tortured prisoners. Nothing worked. Earth's location was not in any database. The humans had been careful, keeping their secret from a galaxy they did not yet trust. The new was certain of it. He captured dozens of them, demanding the coordinates. They refused. These small, fragile creatures chose torture and death over betraying the humans who had saved them. "Why?" screamed at one prisoner, an elderly who glowed faintly even as he died. "Why protect them? They are not your people. They are not your kind." "They came when no one else would," the whispered. "They asked for nothing, they gave us hope." His light flickered out. "You will never understand." Killed him and moved to the next prisoner, and the next, and the next. None of them talked. Finally, his hunters caught a break. A human patrol group was spotted in the system, 5 ships operating far from any support. Assembled his fleet, 50 warships, the largest force gathered in a generation. "We do not need there," he told his captains. "We will destroy these ships and capture their crews. We will learn their secrets, and then we will hunt down every human in the galaxy." The fleet jumped too. The human ships detected them immediately. 5 vessels against 50, impossible odds by any calculation. Any rational enemy would flee. The humans did not flee. Captain Park commanded the patrol group from the. When she saw the armada filling her sensors, she smiled. All ships scatter formation, she ordered. Head for the asteroid field. The 5 human vessels dove into the dense cloud of rocks that filled the system's outer regions. The followed, confident in their numbers, eager for blood. They did not understand what they were facing. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters. Their ancestors had chased prey across open plains for days, never stopping, never tiring, until their target collapsed from exhaustion. They had survived Ice Age's predators and each other by being patient, clever, and absolutely relentless. The asteroid field became a nightmare. Human ships appeared from behind rocks, fired precise volleys, and vanished before they could respond. Pilot Officer flew her fighter through gaps that should have been impossible, her reflexes pushing her craft to its limits, her attacks crippling sensors and engines. Chief Engineer Moon kept the damaged, fighting with improvised repairs and sheer stubbornness, somehow finding power for weapons when the ship should have been dead. The ships were larger, stronger, better armed. None of it mattered. They could not hit what they could not catch. They could not catch what they could not see. Every hour, another ship fell to human ambushes. Every hour's fleet grew smaller. Fall back, finally ordered after 72 hours. His flagship was damaged. Half his fleet was destroyed or disabled. The humans had lost only one ship, and even that crew had been evacuated before it exploded. As his remaining ships tried to retreat, new contacts appeared on sensors. Reinforcements had arrived. 20 human warships dropped out of hyperspace, led by the. But they were not alone. Flying alongside them were ships from a dozen species, vessels, gunboats, cruisers, even some former subjects who had finally found the courage to fight back. Admiral's voice filled the communication channels. "Warlord, your fleet is broken. Your empire is falling. Surrender now and your people will be treated fairly." Stared at the Allied fleet. He had spent his entire life believing that strength was everything, that the strong took what they wanted and the weak existed to serve them. Now he was the weak one, surrounded by those he had oppressed, facing defeat at the hands of creatures from a death world. "Why?" he demanded. "Why do they fight with you? We conquered them. They should hate all warriors, not ally with new ones." "Because we are not you," replied. "We did not conquer them, we helped them. We asked for nothing in return, and when they needed us, we came." "That makes no sense," snarled. "Power exists to be used. The strong rule. That is the way of the universe." Captain Park's voice joined the channel. Her ship was battered, her crew exhausted, but her words were clear. "You thought being from a gentle world made you civilized. You thought being cruel made you strong." She paused. "We came from hell and we chose to be kind anyway. That is what you never understood. That is why you lost." Looked at his options: fight and die, surrender and live in shame. In the end, survival won. "We surrender," he said. The Allied fleet moved in to accept the capitulation. Human Marines boarded the remaining enemy ships, taking prisoners, securing weapons, treating wounded, even wounded. Watched in confusion as humans who should have hated him instead bandaged his injuries and offered him water. "Why help us?" he asked the human medic. "We are your enemies." The medic, a young woman named, shrugged as she worked. "You were our enemies," she said. "Now you're just people who need help, that's what we do." Had no response. His entire understanding of the universe was crumbling, and he did not know how to rebuild it. Later in his cell aboard the, he would have time to think. Time to wonder if perhaps they understood something that his people had forgotten or had never known at all. Outside, the cleanup continued. The Allied fleet gathered survivors, salvaged wreckage, and prepared to escort the prisoners to face justice. Species who had been enemies for generations worked side by side, united by their experience with humanity. Commander stood beside Admiral on the bridge, watching the scene unfold. "We made a lot of allies today," she observed. "We made a start," corrected. "There's still a lot of work to do. The collective isn't finished, just this fleet. And there are other predators out there, other empires that won't like what we're doing. Do you think we can handle them?" Considered the question. Below them, human and alien crews worked together, sharing food and stories and the quiet bond of soldiers who had faced death together. "I think," he said slowly, "that we don't have to handle them alone anymore, and that makes all the difference." They had come from a world that tried to kill them. They had survived by protecting each other. Now they were teaching the galaxy the same lesson, one rescue at a time. 1 year had passed since the first rescue. 1 year since Admiral had ordered his ships into the unknown to answer a stranger's call. In that time, everything had changed. The Galactic Council chamber was vast, built to hold representatives from 1,000 species. Today, it was full. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy had come to witness history. In the center of the Great Hall, a new section had been added, seats for Earth's representatives, positioned not at the edge with the minor powers, but at the heart of the chamber, among the oldest and most respected civilizations. Fleet Marshal walked to the central podium. He wore his dress uniform, decorated with medals from a dozen campaigns, but his bearing was the same as it had always been: steady, humble, determined. Behind him stood the officers who had been with him from the beginning: Commander Captain Park, Dr. Shin, Sergeant Major Lee, and dozens of others. Behind them stood representatives of every species that humanity had helped in the past year. They glowed with soft gratitude. They stood proud in their mining guild uniforms. All of them had come to speak for the who had answered their calls. The chamber fell silent as began to speak. "We did not ask to be born on a death world," he said. His voice was calm, carrying easily through the vast space. "We did not choose the gravity that crushed us or the predators that hunted us. Our planet tested us every day of our existence. Many of us died. Those who survived became strong enough to escape our world and reach for the stars." He paused, looking out at the assembled delegates. "When we first entered the galaxy, we expected to find friends. Instead, we found silence. We searched for decades, calling out, hoping someone would answer. No one did." The elder bowed his head. His people had been among the first to hear humanity's calls and had not responded, too afraid of what they might want. Then 1 year ago we heard a call ourselves, a distress signal from a species we had never met in a language we did not understand. They were under attack, helpless, afraid, and we had a choice. His voice grew stronger. We could have ignored them. We had no treaty obligations, no political advantage to gain, no guarantee that helping would not cost us everything. Our advisors counseled caution. Our strategists warned of unknown dangers. He shook his head. "But we are human. We come from a world where helping each other was the only way to survive. Our ancestors learned that the tribe that protects its members is stronger than the tribe that abandons them. We carried that lesson across the ocean of stars, and when we heard someone crying for help, we answered." The chamber was absolutely silent. Even the most cynical diplomats were listening. "Since that day, we have answered many calls. We have fought slavers and pirates. We have rescued ships and stations. We have protected the weak against those who would prey upon them. Some have called us dangerous. Some have called us naive. Some have wondered what we want in return for our help." Smiled, and it was a gentle smile, tired but genuine. "What we want is simple. We want a galaxy where no one has to be afraid. We want civilizations that protect each other instead of exploit each other. We want children of every species to grow up knowing that if they are ever in danger, someone will come to help." He gestured to the delegates behind him. "We cannot build this alone. No species can. But together, humans and every other civilization willing to stand with us, We can create something better than any of us could achieve alone." From his position, Fleet Marshal produced a document, the Accords, already signed by Earth and a dozen allied species. These accords establish a simple promise. Any species in distress can send a call to our network and we will respond, not for payment, not for political advantage, simply because someone needs help and we have the ability to provide it. Counselor of the Dominion stood, his metallic face skeptical. And what happens when your resources are stretched too thin, when you cannot answer every call? Will you choose which species deserve saving and which do not? It was a fair question, nodded respectfully. "We will do our best," he said. "We will train others to answer calls. We will share our technology and our methods. We will build a network of responders across the galaxy so that no matter where danger strikes, help will be nearby." He met's eyes directly. "Will we sometimes fail? Yes. We are not perfect and we cannot save everyone, but we will never stop trying. We will never decide that some lives matter less than others. Every call deserves an answer, even if that answer is simply 'hold on, we're coming.'" Elder rose to speak. His voice was thin with age, but it carried clearly. "1 year ago my people were cargo. We were hunted, captured, sold. We had lost hope. Then the humans came." His bioluminescence flickered with emotion. "They asked for nothing. They fought for strangers. They carried our children to safety with their own hands." He turned to face the full council. "I have lived for 200 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species promise peace and deliver war. But I have never seen anything like what the humans have done. They have proven that strength can serve compassion. They have shown us that kindness is not weakness." The old bowed too. "Whatever the council decides, my people stand with Earth. We will answer calls alongside them. We will protect others as we were protected." One by one, other species rose to echo's words. Even some former subjects, freed from their masters and searching for a new purpose. The chamber filled with voices pledging support for the Accords. When the vote came, it was overwhelming. Earth was welcomed into the Galactic Council not as a minor member, but as a founding partner of a new coalition dedicated to mutual protection and aid. After the ceremony, as delegates mingled and celebrated, Fleet Marshal found himself approached by a small figure. It was a child, the same one Dr. Shin had carried to safety a year ago. She had grown a little, her glow stronger and steadier, but her eyes held the same curiosity. Through a translator, she asked a simple question: Why do you help?" Knelt down to meet her glowing eyes. He thought about all the years of silence, all the fear and hope that had driven humanity to the stars. He thought about the first call they had answered and all the calls that had followed. "Because someone should," he said finally, "and we can." The child considered this for a moment. Then she hugged him, her small arms barely reaching around his neck, her glow warm against his skin. Around them, the galaxy continued to turn. On 100 worlds, new transmitters tuned to the human frequency. Ships bearing the emblem patrolled the trade routes, ready to respond to any emergency. Training academies opened, teaching other species the skills and values that humans had carried from their death world. The universe was still dangerous. There were still predators and tyrants, disasters and wars. But now there was also something else, a promise, carried across the void by those who had survived hell and chosen to be kind. They were listening. They always would be. Commander found Fleet Marshal later that evening, standing alone on a balcony overlooking the Council's central gardens. Alien plants from 1,000 worlds grew there, each one adapted to different gravity and atmosphere, all somehow flourishing together. "It's a good metaphor," she said, nodding at the gardens. "It is," agreed. "Different species, different needs, but growing together anyway." "Do you think it will last? The coalition, the accords, all of it?" Was quiet for a moment, watching the stars appear in the alien sky. "I don't know," he admitted. "History is full of alliances that failed, promises that were broken, hope that turned to ash. We might fail too." He turned to face her, and his eyes held the same determination they had shown when he first ordered his fleet toward an unknown distress call. "But we have to try. Every time someone calls for help and we answer, we prove that the galaxy can be better. Every time we choose kindness over cruelty, we plant a seed. Maybe some seeds won't grow. Maybe some will take centuries, but enough of them given enough time." He gestured at the garden below. "Even a death world can become a garden. It just takes people willing to do the work." Nodded slowly. She had followed this man for 16 years now, through battles and rescues and diplomatic negotiations. She had seen him exhausted, wounded, afraid, but she had never seen him give up. "So what now?" she asked. Smiled. "Now we go back to work. There are calls waiting." Somewhere in the void, a signal was already traveling, another species in trouble, another cry echoing through the darkness. The heard it. They always did.